Hello, I'm Miranda. Marius van Oldenburg was born into a Dutch patrician family, famous in the business community for importing and bottling wine and sherry. Marius's German mother came from an academic family of doctors. Marius's grandfather was professor of medical jurisprudence in Göttingen, and both aunts were doctors. However, she pursued her passion to study design in Hamburg. This newly married couple left post-war Europe for South Africa in 1928. 4 years later, in 1932, they had Jan and moved to Mozambique. Marius was born 7 years after that in 1939, just as World War II was starting in Europe and family were caught in the conflict. As a little boy, Marius was mischievous and adventurous, compared to his more serious and musical older brother Jan. Marius idealized his older brother, but Jan was away at boarding school in Rhodesia from a young age, and Marius was often lonely as a child. His father was distant and formal, and his mother anxious but more relational. They lived in Mozambique during World War II, where Marius's father was Dutch honorary consul with a German wife, which was difficult. When he was 7, they sent Marius away as a boarder to Avondale Primary School in Rhodesia. He was miserable, so they brought him back to be homeschooled before being returned again. During this time, Victor Pierce was a father figure and took an interest in him. Marius would often reminisce about their cycling weekends and holidays around Salisbury together. Marius started at St. George's School, Salisbury, as a boarder when he was 11 years old. He joked about having had 53 cuts in his first term from the Jesuit priests. Jan had moved to Scotland by this stage to study dentistry, so he was alone again. After a couple of years, Marius' parents moved up to Rhodesia, and Marius became a day boy, which improved things for him. Marius was sporty, and he took up golf very passionately and played every single day of his 13th year. It was to set a pattern that throughout his life, whatever Marius took up, he did passionately and obsessively. He wasn't a particularly interested scholar, was awkward and unhappy socially at school, but golf kept him engaged and focused. When he became interested in something in life, he had tunnel vision. When he won the Namaqualand Junior Championship at 15, he wanted to pursue golf as a career. However, Marius's parents were disdainful of sport, and they persuaded him to do medicine. After a false start, he got into medicine at Cape Town and continued to do general surgery and neurology, working at one point with Chris Barnard, who did the world's first heart transplant. Marius was a very dexterous and skilled surgeon. After getting his FRCS, he decided to specialize in ophthalmology in Scotland. And during these years, Marius had been very preoccupied with his studies and career, and only had his first relationship at 27, which didn't last long. At 34, Marius got accepted into the prestigious ophthalmic 3-year training of Moorfields Eye Hospital in London in December 1973. 2 months later, we met. I had just turned 17, and he was twice my age. Being called a cradle snatcher by his colleagues at Moorfields did not deter Marius one little bit, as I fitted the bill. We got married and lived in Hampstead for a couple of years, so I could finish my A-levels at Camden School for Girls, and he could finish his Moorfields training and his fellowship exams. Being in his late 30s, he really wanted to start a large family, and he persuaded me to defer my university education, which I did. Our first child was born in London in 1976, and then we moved to Cape Town and had 5 more children over the next decade, 5 boys and a girl. Marius developed a thriving private practice, and in all, we had 16 years together. He focused on being a good provider, but he battled impatiently with the stress of raising a young family. Neither he nor I realized at the time how much he struggled with interpersonal relationships. One of his most developed abilities was to make people feel sorry for him without always returning the sentiment. 2 sudden deaths took their toll on Marius: his mother's aortic aneurysm in 1978 and his brother's flying accident in Rhodesia in 1981. Marius could be very enthusiastic or obsessed about any project that he undertook. For example, for 5 years we renovated a dilapidated old Victorian homestead to house his large ophthalmic practice and our growing family. He restored it thoroughly and beautifully. He was also very committed to his regular Orbis trips, and he was a good surgeon. He prided himself on having the largest private practice in Cape Town and a Harley Street London practice, and over the years he brought so many patients a lot of joy. He thrived on admiration, which made his work an ideal source. Marius was a complicated person with many conflictual and opposing aspects to him. He could be so charming, but also an extremely difficult and a tortured soul at times. One of the most tragic events for our family was when Marius had a breakdown and had to stay in the psych ward. He did not get the treatment and ongoing therapy to address the deep-seated, unwell parts of his personality, and this was such a missed opportunity. However, I would like to finish by expressing my gratitude. I always appreciated that he supported me financially while I was married to him, to be a stay-at-home mother, which is what we both wanted for our children. And we had 6 awesome, self-aware, emotionally intelligent, compassionate, and amazingly forgiving children together. Marius, may you rest in peace now.